You are walking through your life with your armor completely stripped off. You may wear a confident face. You may have a respectable job. You may say all the right things in public, but deep down in the raw, unedited silence of your own mind, you know exactly how fragile you really are. A single sarcastic comment from a coworker ruins your entire afternoon. An unread message sends your mind spiraling into a vortex of anxiety. A minor inconvenience in your schedule makes your blood boil. You're handing the remote control of your emotional state to strangers, to random circumstances, to the chaotic, unpredictable weather of the modern world. You're living entirely as a reaction, and you wonder why you feel so exhausted. You're bleeding your premium mental energy every single day because you have built no walls. You have no inner citadel. You have allowed modern society to convince you that being hypersensitive to every shift in your environment is normal. It is not normal. It is the literal definition of mental slavery. 2,000 years ago, the ancient Stoics, men who ruled massive empires, men who survived brutal political exiles, men who endured the physical chains of slavery, discovered a terrifyingly beautiful truth. They realized that you cannot control the chaos of the external world. You cannot stop the storms, the betrayals, the economic collapses, or the blatant disrespect of others. But you possess supreme absolute authority over the architecture of your own mind. Epictetus taught that a man who is not master of himself can never truly be free. Today, we are going to stop the bleeding. We are going to explore 7 brutal Stoic discipline laws designed to make you completely mentally untouchable. When you install these laws into your psychological operating system, you will not just survive the noise of the world, you will dominate it. People will physically feel the shift in your presence. They will sense a heavy, unshakable gravity about you. They will realize that you can no longer be provoked, manipulated, or broken. Before we begin building your fortress, you must make a definitive choice. Are you ready to stop living as a helpless hostage to your own reactions? If you are tired of being easily moved by a world that doesn't care about you, hit the subscribe button right now. Join a rare elite community of sovereign minds who refuse to live on autopilot. Share this video with someone who is currently drowning in their own emotional chaos. And whatever you do, do not skip a single second of this guide. Every law we discuss is a load-bearing pillar in the mind you're trying to build. Seal your commitment to this transformation today. Drop this exact vow in the comments right now. My mind is a fortress and I am the commander. Number 1, the brutal enforcement of the sacred pause. Look at how the average person navigates a crisis. A problem arises, an insult is thrown, a delay occurs, and they react instantly. The gap between the event and their emotional explosion is non-existent. Their mouth moves before their brain processes the data. They fire off the angry email. They shout the defensive comeback. They panic out loud. They operate entirely on the primitive, survival-based logic of an animal backed into a corner. When you react instantly, you're handing the perpetrator a receipt that proves they own you. You're validating their power over your nervous system. To become mentally untouchable, you must master the most devastating weapon in the Stoic arsenal, the sacred pause. The psychiatrist Viktor Frankl, who survived the darkest horrors of human history, noted that between stimulus and response there is a space. And in that space lies our absolute freedom. When someone attempts to provoke you or when a situation falls apart, you must train your biology to freeze. You do not speak. You do not text back. You inhale slowly and you let the silence stretch. Let the awkwardness fill the room. The amateur rushes to fill that silence because they are terrified of tension. The Stoic master weaponizes that tension. In that 3-second pause, you step out of the emotional fire and into the cold, clinical seat of reason. You ask yourself, does this situation actually deserve my premium energy? By refusing to react on their timeline, you starve their ego and assert total dominance over the interaction. Lock in this level of control today. Comment below. I control the space between trigger and response. Number 2, the assassination of the need to be understood. One of the heaviest, most exhausting chains around your neck is your desperate addiction to being understood. When someone misinterprets your actions, questions your motives or spreads a false narrative about you, your immediate impulse is to launch a massive public relations campaign. You want to sit them down, present the evidence, explain your heart, and force them to see you accurately. You believe that if they just understood your side of the story, you would finally feel peace. This is a complete illusion. You are outsourcing your internal peace to the unpredictable, flawed comprehension of another human being. Marcus Aurelius frequently reminded himself that trying to force reason into an unreasonable mind is his exercise in pure madness. The second law of mental untouchability is learning to be profoundly comfortable with being the villain in a fool's story. You must aggressively amputate your need for consensus. When you know exactly who you are in the dark, when your integrity is intact and your conscience is clean, the whispered opinions of the crowd become nothing more than wind blowing against a mountain. If they are committed to misunderstanding you, let them construct a false version of you in their heads. Do not waste a single syllable of your precious breath trying to convince a blind person to see your light. When you stop defending your reality, you reclaim a massive reservoir of energy. You become untouchable because you no longer require the world's permission to be at peace. Declare your psychological independence. Right now, type this: my truth does not require their approval. Number 3, the daily baptism of voluntary friction. You feel fragile because your life is entirely too soft. Modern society has engineered an existence designed to eliminate all physical and emotional friction. We avoid the cold. We avoid hunger. We avoid awkward conversations, and we avoid difficult tasks. We worship comfort, but comfort is a velvet prison. When you spend your entire life hiding from difficulty, your baseline for stress atrophies. The moment real adversity strikes, a financial loss, a betrayal, a health scare, you completely collapse because your nervous system has no callus. Seneca, despite his immense wealth, regularly practiced voluntary poverty. He wore rough clothes, ate stale bread, and slept on the floor. He did this to inoculate his mind against the fear of loss. If you want to become mentally unbreakable, you must stop running from friction and start scheduling it. You must become the architect of your own discomfort. Wake up at 500 a.m. when your body begs for sleep. Step into a freezing shower and force your mind to endure the shock without panicking. Lift weights that make your muscles burn. Have the difficult, terrifying conversation you have been avoiding for 6 months. When you voluntarily inject hardship into your daily routine, you prove to your subconscious mind that you are the master of your impulses. You teach your brain that pain is not an emergency. It is merely data. The person who deliberately seeks out the fire in times of peace becomes a terrifyingly calm warrior in times of war. Anchor this strength to your soul. Drop this vow in the comments. I seek the fire to forge my mind. Number 4, the absolute detachment from outcomes. You are living in a state of perpetual anxiety because you have tethered your identity to things you cannot control. You believe you are successful only if the business makes $1 million. You believe you are valuable only if the person you love stays with you. You believe you are worthy only if the crowd applauds your effort. You have placed your center of gravity completely outside of your own body, leaving it vulnerable to market crashes, shifting moods, and random chance. Epictetus taught that suffering is the direct mathematical result of trying to control the uncontrollable. The 4th law is the radical, uncompromising divorce of your effort from the universe's outcome. Your jurisdiction ends at the boundary of your own actions. You control your discipline. You control your integrity. You control your preparation. You control your relentless work ethic. Everything else, the applause, the profit, the acceptance, is none of your business. You must learn to execute with lethal precision and then completely release the result into the void. When you work a 14-hour day and the project still fails, the amateur feels destroyed. The Stoic looks at the failure and says, my effort was flawless. The universe simply had a different plan. When you detach your self-worth from the final score, you become extremely dangerous. You stop fearing failure because failure is no longer a verdict on your soul. You walk into high-stakes environments with chilling calmness, knowing the worst. that can happen is an external loss and your internal citadel remains completely unreached. Claim your true jurisdiction today? Comment below. I command my effort. I surrender the result. Number 5, the ruthless curation of your inner circle. You like to think of yourself as an independent thinker, but the brutal reality of human psychology is that you are a composite of the energy standards and mindsets of the people you spend the most time with. If you are surrounded by people who constantly complain about their lives, who gossip about others, who play the victim, and who settle for mediocrity, their low-frequency energy is quietly infecting your mind. You cannot construct a titanium mindset while swimming in a pool of toxic waste. The Stoics were fiercely protective of their associations. Associate with people who are likely to improve you, Seneca advised. He knew that bad company destroys good character. To become mentally untouchable, you must perform a ruthless, unemotional audit of your environment. You must look at the people in your life and ask a binary question. Is this person elevating my standards, or are they dragging me down to their level of comfort? If a relationship consists of nothing but draining complaints, petty drama, and stagnation, you must begin the practice of strategic distance. You do not need to make a dramatic announcement. You do not need to pick a fight. You simply withdraw your premium access. You protect your mental bandwidth like a billionaire protects their bank account. When you elevate your circle, even if that means spending a season in total solitude reading the works of dead philosophers, your standards will automatically rise. You become unbreakable by ensuring that no one in your proximity is permitted to hand you a hammer and ask you to smash your own walls. Make this your non-negotiable standard. Type this: I only entertain energy that elevates me. Number 6, the weaponization of absolute silence. We live in a world that equates noise with power. When someone insults you, you think you must insult them back, harder to win. When a conflict arises, you think you must have the last word to prove your dominance. You believe that? If you do not speak, you have somehow surrendered. But true power is horrifyingly quiet. The 6th law is mastering the lethal application of silence. When a toxic person tries to bait you into an argument, they are throwing a psychological hook. They want you to get angry. They want you to yell. They want to trigger your emotions so they can point at you and say, look how crazy they are. Your emotional explosion is exactly what they need to feel powerful. When you respond to disrespect with absolute, dead, unblinking silence, you strip them of their power instantly. You deny them the emotional payoff they were hunting for. Imagine throwing a rock into a canyon and never hearing it hit the bottom. It is deeply disorienting. It makes the aggressor feel incredibly small when you refuse to explain yourself. When you refuse to engage in a petty debate, you force the other person to sit in the awkward, suffocating vacuum of their own poor behavior. You do not need to raise your voice to command a room. When you master the art of looking at someone's chaos and responding with total stillness, you become the most intimidating force in any environment. Your silence communicates that they are simply not significant enough to disrupt your peace. Declare your mastery over the noise. Comment below. My silence is louder than their chaos. Number 7, the daily embrace of the final curtain. You operate under a massive dangerous delusion. You move through your days with a casual arrogance, assuming that you have an infinite supply of tomorrows because you think you have endless time. You tolerate disrespect. You stay in jobs you hate. You delay your deepest ambitions. You let anxiety over what people think paralyze you because you believe you have decades to figure it out later. The ultimate law of mental untouchability is the practice of memento mori. Remember that you must die. This is not a dark, depressing thought to the Stoic. It is the ultimate clarifier. Marcus Aurelius, the most powerful man on earth, reminded himself every morning that he could leave life at any moment. When you truly viscerally internalize the fact that your heart has a finite number of beats remaining and that this very day could be your last, the trivial nonsense of the world instantly evaporates. Does it really matter if a stranger on the internet disagrees with you when you are both going to be dust? Does it make sense to stay paralyzed by the fear of failure when the clock is aggressively ticking down to zero? The awareness of your own mortality incinerates cowardice. It burns away the need for approval. It replaces your anxiety with a fierce, beautiful, unapologetic urgency to live completely on your own terms when you look death in the eye. Every single morning, nothing in life can ever scare you again. You stop surviving and you finally dangerously begin to live. Anchor this ultimate truth right now. Type this below. My time is finite and I will not waste it on fear. Becoming mentally untouchable is not a genetic gift. It is not an accident of birth. It is a daily, grueling, invisible discipline. When you master the sacred pause, when you murder the need to be understood, when you voluntarily step into the fire, detach from outcomes, curate your circle, weaponize silence, and remember your death, you cease to be a normal, reactive human being. You become a psychological fortress. The world will continue to be loud. People will continue to be toxic. Economies will crash and storms will rage. Let them. Let the wind howl. Let the masses scream and fight for scraps of validation. You're no longer playing their game. You're standing in the center of the chaos, completely still, completely rooted, and absolutely untouchable. If you have stayed in the fire with me until the very end of this video, you belong to a rare fraction of humanity that actually seeks the hard truth over the comfortable lie. You're an architect of your own mind. Prove your commitment to your future right now. Hit the like button to cement your progress today. Share this video with a friend who is fighting an invisible battle and needs the armor of Stoicism. And make absolutely sure you are subscribed to this channel so you never lose your edge. Leave your final unbreakable declaration in the comments below. I forge my mind and I conquer my reality. Stay grounded. Stay disciplined. Guard your inner citadel. I will see you in the next one.